Hey everyone, in today's review I'm going to look at the Rowney FW mixed media paint markers. I was introduced to these markers by my friend Drew Skip. He was using them as well markers. He filled one of these markers with Ecoline inks. Today we are going to fill them with walnut ink and this fountain pen ink, Lexington Gray, and see how they perform inside markers like this. These markers are available with different types of tips. They come in different shapes and sizes. The one that I bought, this is a chisel tip. The other one is also a chisel tip, but it's much larger. These markers are made for use with FW acrylic inks, but you can also use them with other types of inks. I'm not sure if you can tell, but these are huge markers. The capacity for these two smaller ones, they are 5 ml each. This large one, this is 20 ml. This can probably fill about 1/3 of this ink bottle. So let's open them up and fill them with ink. This is the small marker. Their ink capacity label, it's on the side here. It actually came with the tip installed already. And this cap here, it can go to the back. This is one of those spring tips. You can actually just push it down like this. Whoa, those are the ball bearings. These are pretty huge ball bearings and there are 2 of them. This part can be dismantled very easily and you can replace this tip here and also clean all this very easily. So there's the spring inside. So this is what happens when you push the tip. Let's fill up the small marker with walnut ink. I'm going to use my blunt tip syringe to take out some of the ink. This syringe has a 1 ml capacity, so it's going to take a few tries to fill it up. The body is mostly translucent, so you can see how much ink is left in it. I'm just going to fill this up at the halfway point. Let me put the ball bearing back in and close this up. I'm going to let the ink flow for a while to soak the tip. Meanwhile, let's take a look at this much larger marker. The cap is airtight, so it prevents the tip from drying out, and this is important, especially if you are going to be using acrylic ink. Wow, the ball bearings, these are even larger. This is almost like marble. And put that aside. You can dismantle this very easily as well. This is very hard sponge, and that's the spring mechanism. I hope this is durable. Let's put this back again. And for this, I'm going to use Noodler's Lexington Gray. I actually wanted to use rotring ink. If you use India ink or other black inks, you can dilute it with some water. This has a 20 ml capacity, and of course, because the tip is so large, it's going to use up a lot of ink. So it might be more economical to use India ink instead and dilute it. Alright, I'm just going to fill it about 20%. Let's put the marbles back in. A few minutes have passed and the ink has not soaked the tip, so let me just press down to get the ink out. Alright, so this is walnut ink. You have to be a bit careful when you press down like this, because some of the ink, they may come rushing out from the tip here. As you can see, the ink flow, it's really good. This is great for covering large areas. The spring system is really for thicker inks that do not flow as well. So when you press down, the ink will start flowing again. for wet inks like this, for fountain pen inks, I think it should flow fine without those problems. Actually, I should not call this a sponge tip. This is actually a foam tip because this is much harder and some of the ink has started to soak the tip. Let me press it down to get more ink out. So now the whole tip is soaked with ink. Wow, this is supposed to be gray. I pressed down a bit too hard here, so there is a lot of ink here and some of the ink actually soaked through the paper to the other side. This is 180 GSM paper. If you want to use this, then I definitely recommend using thicker paper, or at least paper that is not as absorbent as this. So this is quite useful if you need to be covering large areas. Well, you can also use the shorter end here to get a somewhat thinner line. So this is the thick line. Lexington gray, it's a very nice shade of gray. It looks something like this. Let's see if I can layer over it. If you want to do all this glazing or layering, again, it's better to use more durable paper. If not, I believe the paper fiber may actually come off. This is, after all, liquid ink, so the ink flow is fantastic. I guess you can use it for calligraphy as well. And now let's use the markers to color some sketches that I drew a few seconds ago. This is with the walnut ink. It works just like markers, like those Copic markers, but this is not alcohol marker, so the ink, the liquid ink, it takes a while to dry. I can see some paper fiber coming off the paper. So it's not good if you do this, you sort of rub against the paper a few times, like if you want to layer. This is not good for that. The tip is a bit hard, so it's a bit coarse against lousy quality paper. This ink is almost drying up, so let me just press down a bit. So some of the paper fiber has definitely came off the surface of the paper. And now let's use the large marker to color this. Since the tip is so big, it's a bit challenging to work on the details. So it's definitely not easy to color areas like this. It's very difficult to reach into tiny areas. This has dried. So let me add another layer. This paper here, I feel like it's going to dissolve very soon. Here's a close-up on the strokes. This is fine grain paper. Let's see if it performs any differently on smoother paper. I'm going to color this sketch that I drew a few months ago. So let me just fill up the sky. Wow, it's so easy to just fill up areas, large areas like this. Of course, for smaller areas, it's very challenging to paint with this size of marker. This marker works quite well on smoother paper. This is the Ladar Art Supply sketchbook with 120 GSM paper. This paper is thinner compared to this fine grain paper, which is 180 GSM, but it performs better. Let's try and add an additional layer. So the paper is able to sort of handle an additional layer, but I can feel the paper starting to buckle slightly. Overall, the paper performs quite well. The ink did not soak through the paper to go over to the other page. And the effect, it looks quite nice. With markers, it's not as easy compared to watercolor when it comes to achieving flat washes like this. So streaks like this, overlays like this, they are quite common. One thing I like about this marker is because it's designed for paint or thicker inks, you can press down the tip like this and it will get the ink or the paint flowing. And that's a pretty good feature. The only downsides for me is, well, these markers, they roll around on the table too easily. It would be great if they have some sort of design that prevents the markers from moving around too much. You can probably use alcohol inks, for example, those Copic inks in markers like this. I don't foresee any problems. As for the price, I bought this marker locally here in Singapore and I paid $8.50, that's Singapore dollar. On Amazon, it seems to be selling at US $10, not including shipping. On Jackson's Art, they are selling at £5.7, so this price is comparable to Singapore, but the US price, it's a bit more expensive. The large marker is sold in a pack by itself. The smaller markers, they are sold two in a pack. So the price definitely depends on where you are buying from. And that's all for my review today. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section. If you want to find out where you can buy the markers, you can visit the product links in the video description below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.